Battle Creek, Michigan, a young family lays to rest their eldest son after being unsuccessfully treated with drugs for pneumonia. Just 3 months later, another son contracts the same disease. This time, his parents trial hydrotherapy treatments. Willie makes a full recovery. James and Ellen White were early leaders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, parents living an extraordinary life. Ellen frequently claimed to receive insights about exercise, cleanliness, fresh air and water through visions from God. These same visions would propel Ellen to seek out greater understanding of healthful living. She became a prolific writer and speaker on health, nutrition, removing meat from the diet, and the importance of holistic health. It's with these teachings that just 3 years later, the church opened a 9-acre property in Battle Creek called the Western Health Reform Institute, a home to nurture this health knowledge. 10 years later, under the charge of Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, the name changed to Battle Creek Sanitarium, a place where people learn to stay well. Dr. Kellogg developed new convenience foods to improve patients' health and established a sales channel to the public as well.
So by 1885, the church leaders recognised that their task was a global task. And as a result of that, a small group of Seventh-day Adventist ministers and workers progressively migrated to Australia. Ellen White and her son Willie joined them in 1891, initially settling in Sydney, but a few years later moving right here to Sunnyside in Cooranbong, New South Wales.
1894, Brighton Church Camp, Melbourne. Ellen spoke about her work and visions of health reform. Cooking lessons followed in the homes of many local families before the very first public health lectures stirred an interest in the value of health foods for everyone. Amidst this season of growth, Ellen's son, Willie White, now Australia's first Adventist Church Union president, writes to church leaders in Battle Creek seeking assistance in consolidating their health work activities in Australia. They responded, forming a new local organisation to manage Sydney's Sanitarium Hospital, the thriving health food business, and the church's charitable activities.
So John Harvey Kellogg and his brother Will pioneered what they termed pre-digested foods. What they wanted to do was make grains, and particularly whole grains, more easily digestible and accessible to the patients of the Battle Creek Sanitarium. Well, they conducted a number of trials cooking the grains and milling the grains, and typically they ended up with a great lump of grains. Well, one day they cooked the grain, left it for a couple of days. They were called away to some other work, and they came back and decided to still run it through the mill. When they did that, lo and behold, they had beautiful big flakes of cereal emerge. What they discovered by accident was the importance of conditioning the grain, letting the moisture go through the grain before the milling process overall. And so they applied for patents for that new process that they developed, and a new product was developed, the product called Granos.
It was a time of great excitement, anticipation and growth. Buoyed by the discovery, Willie placed a large order with Battle Creek and invited Edward Halsey to join them in making granola and caramel cereal locally. On January 27, 1898, Halsey answered that call and commenced making Australia's first peanut butter and ready-to-eat cereals from the St George's Bakery in Northcote, Melbourne. The Sanitarium Health Food Company was registered as a business on April 27, 1898.
As with any growing enterprise, the company craved for working capital and cash. So they took out a £50 loan, that's around $7,500 in today's money. Sadly, the market wasn't quite ready for the stock build that came from the bakehouse, and so ultimately the doors were closed and the staff were sent out into the community to sell direct to consumers.
It wasn't long before Willie was joined by American George W. Morse to try and turn around the fortunes of the ailing health food enterprise. An old sawmill in Coorambong, New South Wales, became the new bakery site. The work to rebuild the Sanitarium vision was long, unforgiving and arduous.
In these tough times, a real spirit of determination prevailed. The pioneers saw themselves as doing God's service. They had a clear purpose and a clear philosophy. Wages were small, payments were irregular. Converting the old sawmill to health food production was delayed. The brick making on site proved to be slow. So the balance sheet of the organisation looked pretty grim. It was a dire situation. Let's look at the numbers that were to make or break this great vision. In 1899, the cash-strapped enterprise paid £225 for essential machinery. But with no income, loan repayments became unworkable. Staff wages were 1 shilling 10 pence a day. The manager was paid £2 every week. The initial loan of £50 soon stretched thin, with mounting stock but no sales materialising. Relocating to the Coorambong site was budgeted at £200, promising an operational saving of £250. Instead of preserving the slim working capital, the moving costs blew out to £400, a devastating blow. The church's resources were drained. It had already invested in the Sand Hospital and Avondale College, and now a new factory site. Quickly, the factory site became a lesser priority. The company needed more working capital. They started a process to find external investors. However, that failed.
A new century heralded a new 4-point plan to turn around the enterprise's future. It started with a policy to be self-sustaining each week, followed by a call for volunteer labour to help re-establish a workforce. Detailed financials were then shared with all staff each week, meaning that after weekly running expenses and work aboard was paid, any surplus was to be distributed as wages up to an agreed amount. Any further residual income would be used to repay debt.
The New Zealanders could really see the market opportunity for the products, and they showed a real interest in creating a local presence in New Zealand. In 1901, a property was purchased in Papanui in Christchurch. Edward Halsey relocated from Australia to New Zealand and started local operations in a small red wooden shed. This shed was known for many years as the Red Shed. A local wealthy farmer helped purchase a small oven for the princely sum of £55. This is around $8,300 in today's money. Edward started baking the original Sanitarium products of granola, caramel cereal, unleavened rolls and breads for use in the health home.
Back home in Australia, the tide was gradually turning. Things started looking up for the struggling enterprise. Board members pulled together £80 to crowdfund much-needed growth. Prayers for water supply were answered, and by 1906, some 38,000 tin products were shipped out, representing a 24% sales growth. The income of £5,955 finally saw a modest profit realised in 1907. By 1910, 6 full-time and 17 part-time workers produced an impressive 104 tonnes, or 4,400 cases of foods.
Well, by 1912, momentum really started to build. Production doubled, which meant new equipment needed to be ordered, and the opportunity for new products opened up. One new product that was launched in 1912 that we still produce today was the vegetarian meat substitute Nuttolene.
World War I almost closed the factory in 1914 due to raw materials being in such short supply. But heavy lobbying with the state government saw supply lines remain open. By 1922, surviving turned to thriving as the factory was expanded and largely rebuilt. A new oven capable of producing 10,000 Granos biscuits, the forerunner to Weet-Bix, in one shift, saw production output reach an incredible 18 tonnes a week. Health food stores gave birth to new pure food cafes, with newly appointed manager George Fisher taking the valuable lessons learned from the first Sydney cafe's rocky beginnings, eventually opening more cafes in Melbourne, Wellington, Auckland, Adelaide, Brisbane and Perth.
The cafe work continued to grow and be successful. George Fisher, as part of a celebratory dinner, read a recommendation from church leaders urging that all church work, like Sanitarium, make a donation towards foreign mission work. He then went on to unveil a model sailing ship surrounded by 25 gold sovereigns. Later that year, Fisher delighted in reporting a £127 profit from cafe operations, with £25, which is about $3,600 today, donated to mission work. From that period on, Sanitarium never looked back.
Well, in the 1920s, some new competition emerged in the Australian breakfast cereal market. A sweetened flake biscuit product made by company Grain Products emerged into the marketplace. Sanitarium saw this as an opportunity and purchased the brand in 1928. This paved the way for our most well-loved product, Weet-Bix. But another product that gained popularity back in those days was Marmite. Marmite was first brought from the UK in 1908 and manufactured in Britain. However, the start of the First World War interrupted supplies of Marmite to Australia and New Zealand. Having learnt that lesson, the managers of Sanitarium then transferred the recipe to New Zealand and started production in Australia and New Zealand, eventually finishing in Christchurch. The combination of local manufacture made for the Australian taste ensured the popularity of Marmite grew throughout the latter part of the 20th century.
The Great Depression of the 1920s and 30s brought new growth for Sanitarium, with frugal families seeing value in simple, good value health foods. Another World War did little to dampen the growth spirits of Sanitarium, with manufacturing facilities expanding rapidly into all Australian capital cities, as well as growing operations in Auckland, Palmerston North and Christchurch. Fast forward to the 1970s and beyond. Sanitarium's market quickly propelled to accommodate our society's growing demand for convenience and health foods. Category growth saw a multitude of new product lines and healthy choices win the hearts and minds of everyone. Sanitarium had long realised the benefits of soy foods, but it was a happy accident in 1984 that saw some visiting American salesmen leave behind a bag of soy protein isolate, inspiring one of our most loved products. Researchers at our Cooranbong Food Laboratories developed a new soy milk. So Good entered our homes and kitchens in 1986. It signalled a fresh era in our beverages division, which grew to include Up and Go, as well as some new plant-based milks such as almond milk and cashew nut milk. Today, plant-based beverages have grown to become our most popular line. Savvy new consumers seeking more choices in plant-based foods inspired a deeper search beyond Sanitarium's core lines. The answer was found in New Zealand.
So in 1990, Lisa, a primary school teacher, decided she wanted to create healthy hummus for her kids and started making it in her own kitchen, on her own stove, launched her products into health food stores and grew the portfolio. That's the business we acquired, but we then extended that business substantially with a range of new innovative products, packaging formats, etc., and thereby growing the plant-based food offering. In 2006, Bean Supreme and Naked Organics was acquired. Kiwi chef Angus Allen started Naked Organics in his mum's kitchen, based only on natural products and natural ingredients. In 2010, we acquired Kato, a business and brands inspired by Chef Russell Cowley, with two very strong food service brands called Food by Chefs and Prep Kitchen. Simultaneously, we commissioned a purpose-built factory in Avondale, Auckland, in which we relocated all the small business into this one factory site. We also changed the company name to Life Health Foods, becoming an umbrella brand for all the strong individual brands, which we kept, but retaining the entrepreneurial spirit and approach to the total business.
In July 2014, the Sanitarium vegetarian meals business, which included the Veggie Delights brand, was transferred to Life Health Foods Australia, a newly established company which was a wholly owned subsidiary of Life Health Foods New Zealand.
The Veggie Delight business that was acquired from Sanitarium was transferred to a purpose-built factory in Berkeley Vale. The factory was commissioned in 2015 with 55 staff members, which today has more than doubled. The Bean Supreme brand from LHF New Zealand was imported into Australia and added to the portfolio of products and ranged in all the major retailers in Australia. The Alternative Meat Company brand was created to launch the plant-based bleeding burger, bleeding mince and bleeding sausage into the market.
The Life Health Foods family now reaches across the globe. Indian soy milk pioneers Pro Soya joined the group in 2011, renaming as Life Health Foods India. Almond milk manufacturing was also introduced in India, quickly growing a vast distribution network and tripling sales revenue within the first 5 years. Life Health Foods UK became the group's first joint venture in 2015, supplying innovative breakfast foods such as NutriBrex gluten-free cereal biscuits and mueslis and Up and Go liquid breakfast to the European market.
So a strategic overview in 2005 saw us revisit the company's original mission and purpose. And what we wanted to do is build trust and credibility in the field of health and well-being. Yet we knew that preventable lifestyle diseases, such as type 2 diabetes, were soaring. And so we asked the question, what can we do?
In 2011, Sanitarium focused energies on expanding workplace-based health services, acquiring several companies throughout Australia and New Zealand to furnish this new focus.
In 2013, we integrated those 6 businesses into one called Vitality Works. It was a bit of a roller coaster from there, since 3 of those businesses actually serviced workplaces in the mining sector. So when the mining boom turned, we faced some pretty significant challenges. By 2017, we saw an upward turn, and today we are Australia and New Zealand's largest workplace health provider with a core competency in delivering workplace health solutions. It's exciting to see that some of Australia and New Zealand's best known blue chip companies like the Reserve Bank of Australia, Air New Zealand, Laing O'Rourke, CBA, Westpac and St John's trust us to provide their workplace health services. At the same time in 2013 we purchased the worldwide rights to CHIP, which is the Complete Health Improvement Program. CHIP is a lifestyle disease intervention program that's proven to manage, prevent and even reverse chronic disease. So we've now had over 85,000 people go through the program, and we're pleased that many organisations actively support the benefits of CHIP.
Our history defines our purpose. Our founders established our values. Together, we are changing lives every day.